Today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah, doesn't feel like it. I wish I could move that fast. I wonder if I would get things done quicker.
I think I did see you moving that fast a couple of times.
You must you must have been dreaming because I don't think that would happen.
I do dream about work. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I never leave work, you know? I go from here, I stumble into bed, and then I'm at work again. And then I wake up and I come to the office and I'm at work again.
Yeah, so
Just like a transitional thing.
yep.
Howdy from East Texas, Martin Eastburn.
Oh, yes, the other day on the weekend, Saturday, I was driving and I got
Okay.
to an intersection down on the south end of Fayetteville, and I turn and look, and somebody, you know how we usually have people standing at the side of the road holding signs?
Yeah.
Well, somebody actually took a sign and wrote howdy on it and stuck it in the grass. And so I thought, oh, Scott's been here.
Howdy.
It's
Howdy doody.
It says howdy from Northern California.
I just thought it was funny that we'd been talking about that word all last week, and then all of a sudden it appeared on the
That
side
is
of the road.
official greeting on our live cast program. Howdy. We got people in different countries using howdy all over the world.
Howdy.
Howdy.
It just flows off the tongue. I love it.
Yeah, it does.
How you all doing?
Hey,
They're all
Scott.
fine.
We're doing
It's-
good. How are you, Cameron?
Big howdy to you.
Good, good. Thank you. From the Pacific Northwest.
Hey,
Yes.
Scott,
Is it cool there? Go ahead, Kent.
I'm watching these stars rise.
Yeah.
Is it running backwards? Because the stars are rising in the west.
Which way you got the camera aimed, right?
Well, but that's low in the horizon. That's not the north,
And
is it? That's Sagittarius?
yeah, it's the south.
So it's running backwards.
Could be. Artistic license.
Yeah, that's what people claim.
Yeah. Maybe. Don't be wrong though. You gotta look it up.
Now, who are these people?
It's
Those
just stock video.
Amateur astronomers.
There you go. That's a great answer, Cameron. Perfect.
You bet. People of the earth.
So is it cool there, Cameron? Or is it?
Yeah, cool in the evenings. I'm starting to get dew when I don't use those dew shields. I found that out.
Oh, gosh.
And,
Painful lesson.
yeah, no big deal. I mean, it was time to finish the session anyhow. So, but yeah, it's starting to. But in the daytime, we've been getting some pretty nice weather. We've been pretty unusually clear skies, which is amazing considering I've got new equipment from you guys, and
Yeah.
I'm able to test it out. It's a blast.
Hurricane would have moved over there.
Yeah, exactly. How is it for you guys? I mean, the hurricane came through pretty quickly, right?
You have clouds, but
It's in the 90s.
Yeah, we
sky
got
is
no
pretty clear a lot of times. So
Yeah.
we got no hurricane weather.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Excellent.
In the 90s and hot and clear. And
yeah, but the damage for those poor people that were in
Yeah.
the path, that was
Oh man.
Yeah, people in New Orleans, when you live
you guys
below
see
sea
that?
level.
Yeah, you're right, Kent. I mean, did you see that big tower that fell down?
No, I
That
didn't.
was providing. Yeah, there was a huge electrical grid tower that pretty much supplied the main city to New Orleans, and
I heard like the whole city of New Orleans was out
the
of
whole city, millions of people out of power. I mean, it's
Yeah.
major.
New Orleans is not that big of a city.
Yeah.
Like there's only a few 100,000 people. So it's
Yeah, in the main area, yeah, in the downtown area. But they have that whole peninsula.
Just looking
guess
it
there's a
up to
lot of-
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.2 million in the MSA,
Yes.
which
yes.
which goes up to all the way up to Baton Rouge.
What's up for September? Moving fast in the cosmos with planet Mercury and stars Arcturus and Altair. You'll have to be quick to catch a glimpse of Mercury this month, as the innermost and fastest moving planet, namesake of the fleet-footed mythological messenger, appears low in the west for a short time following sunset. But those with a clear view toward the horizon will be rewarded with some nice planetary groupings for the first week and a half of September. You'll find Mercury just a few degrees above the western horizon about half an hour after the sun sets, with much brighter Venus higher and slightly farther to the south. On the 9th and 10th, look for the pair to be joined by the crescent moon. In between the two planets is the bright star, Spica, which is actually two stars orbiting each other at a distance 3 times closer than Mercury orbits our sun. Mercury should be visible for you from the mid-northern latitudes on south. The farther south you are, the longer Mercury will be above the horizon for you before it sets. In addition to Spica, 2 other bright stars you can easily spot early in the evening in September are Arcturus and Altair. Arcturus is the brightest star in the northern sky. It owes this status largely to the fact that it's relatively close by, at about 37 light years from our solar system. You can find Arcturus in the west in the first couple of hours after it gets dark. Look for the Big Dipper and follow its handle over toward the south about the width of an outstretched hand. It's easy to remember with the phrase arc to Arcturus. One interesting thing about Arcturus is that compared to other stars, it's moving extremely fast with respect to our solar system. In fact, the discovery of the star's motion was a huge moment in astronomy. Before that, the positions of the stars were thought to be fixed and unchanging. After Edmund Halley's discovery, the understanding that the stars move around as independent objects began to take hold. After you've found orange-colored Arcturus, spin yourself around toward the south-southeast to find Altair. You'll spy it hanging right above Saturn all month. In fact, it's about as high above Saturn as Saturn is from the horizon. Altair is a bright white-colored star, which makes for a nice color comparison with Arcturus and nearby Antares. At just 17 light-years away, it's definitely one of the closest bright stars to our solar system. One of the coolest things about Altair is that it rotates so fast that it's flattened into an oval shape. Since it's so close by, astronomers have actually been able to image this fast spinner's flattened shape directly. So look for Altair and Arcturus in the September sky, 2 bright, nearby stars that, along with Mercury, each have their own spin on what it means to be fast. Here are the phases of the moon for September. You can catch up on all of NASA's missions to explore the solar system and beyond at nasa.gov. I'm Preston Dykes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
That's cool. I like that little segment.
Yeah. Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts from the Explorer Alliance and Explore Scientific, and I'm here with Kent Marts and Annie Scarborough and Cameron Gillis. Our Wednesday programs are going to be FirstLight, Chronicles, and of course, Cameron Gillis's CamStronomy. Before we get started, we asked Annie to come on to the program to give us a little bit of an update on what's going on with the Explorer Alliance and the astrophotography contest.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good afternoon. We were just discussing the weather here. Luckily, we haven't had any issues from the hurricanes and stuff. It's been really hot, but I know some places are having some issues. So we hope everybody's safe and, getting everything they need. Just, I can't even imagine. But anyways, we have a lot going on in Explorer Alliance. We just finished up that last astrophotography galaxy contest. And now we are trucking into today. It started today. We have started a solar astrophotography contest. I was just looking at the website. Unfortunately, the page isn't up yet. I need to check on that and see what's going on with it. But we have changed a couple of things on there. You're only allowed to submit 2 pictures. And then our prizes are changing up a little bit. So first place is going to win $100 gift card. Second's going to be 75. And then third is 50. And then of course, if you're not already a platinum member, we will upgrade that platinum membership, upgrade you from a legacy to a platinum, or if you have to be a member to participate. So you can get that upgraded membership. We also have that new category of never before seen. And last time we got the galaxy, we got to see a new photographer that we have not seen yet. And so that was really amazing. And the prize for that would be an upgraded membership. So we have a lot going on. So we have that. And then I also wanted to talk about the On the Wing. We have a contest going on for that. And there has been only 2 entries, 2 for that. So it's a 50-50 chance of winning. That's some good odds. Good odds.
Is there still time to enter?
Yes. And I will tell you what the question is.
Okay.
It is define monomorphic and give examples of it. And the prize, I believe, Kent, is a what kind of binos? Do you remember?
I thought it was a new car.
I wish I would.
I think we're doing
There's some
a Shasta
beautiful-
Ridge.
Yeah, I think it's a pair of Shasta Ridges, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
8x42s, I think.
Nice binoculars.
Yes.
Jeez.
Nice binoculars.
Yeah, a really, really nice
I want
pair.
those.
You want
A really nice
See
pair
the
of
other guy that's entered, Cameron.
Cameron's like,
That's
oh,
the
I know
plan.
To put it in perspective, they're $229 nights.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really, really good binos, and they have a lifetime warranty on them. So, even if you want to just do some stargazing or bird watching or whatever, then they're great for that. So, so we only have 2 entries for that. So
Hey, you got to enter. As an astronomer, you should own a pair of binoculars. But I am shocked, really, on how many amateur astronomers don't even own a pair of binoculars.
really,
And that's
I'll be the first to admit. No, you're right. I mean, I definitely need an upgrade because I used to have some 11x80s back in the day, and
back in the day.
those were really nice. They were just a bit heavy, you needed a tripod and all that. But I never. My wife has some 7x35s, which are just not the best for astronomy. So it's like I need to get a little more aperture. So, you get some nice ED binoculars. That's definitely in my plan. I want to get some nice binoculars, and it's just so nice to be able to sit back as you're looking, even with a telescope or imaging or whatever, and just sit back and you just look, and explore and get your orientation. It's just a wonderful way because it's such a wide field of view, and then during the day too. I mean, it's fantastic. It gives you enough field of view and enough mobility that it becomes transparent. The instrument itself becomes transparent with what you're doing, and you can just connect. It's really, highly recommended.
And the great thing about our Alpen binos is that the quality on them is so amazing. I mean, we have customers that call and say, I've had these for 15 years and they just now lost an eyepiece, or they just, they need to be
Eye cup.
colonnaded eye cup, or sorry, I'm so used to doing it anyways. But they, in fact, just the other day I had a customer call and he starts talking about his binoculars and having an issue with them. And I was like, okay, what kind are they? Blah, blah, blah. Started telling me, and I was like, that is an Alpen. He goes, oh, I don't have a problem with my Alpen binoculars. I actually have 3 or 4 pair of them. It's this. problem with. So, but so they're really good. They're really good quality, and they're you know, we try to make sure that we can fix them and repair them if there an issue comes up with them.
So how do they enter this contest, Annie?
The birding show, on the wing. I call it birding show. Sorry, on the wing. You just go email me your answers to Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com. You needed to define the word monomorphic and give me, was it 2 examples? Did I say 2 examples or 1?
Examples, I think is what you said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Give examples.
Yeah. So yeah, and then that'll give you a chance to win, and you have until tonight at midnight to do that. So that'll give you
So if you use the Google, you can probably get an accurate answer pretty quickly. Yeah.
what
you
if they
don't,
try can they not use the Siri
they could try the Siri or the Bing.
or the
You know, those are-
Safari?
Making it easy for them.
Oh, yeah, I want some at the
You
enter.
want somebody
Yeah.
to win those binoculars?
Now
Is that
the two people who have entered don't want me to make it easy for other people to enter. But I want
it?
it
Yeah.
easy.
Do you think you're making friends with these 2 people, Ken?
I don't know who they are, so I probably already am.
Probably have like a dartboard with your face on it, right?
Yes. Yeah, I know who they are, but I cannot tell you. It's a secret. I might have to kill you.
Secret. Yeah, don't tell. Don't tell.
Yeah.
No, but anyway, so, and then we have a lot of stuff going on with our, you know, things coming up. We've got our normal schedule. It looks like next week is Scott, the 61st Global Star Party, which you had the
Yep.
60th last night, which it sounds like you guys had lots of fun.
Yes. Yep. So the 61st Global Star Party is the theme is the power of stars, and so I think it's we have been all over the universe and looked at moons and galaxies and nebula, and we have had we've celebrated astronomers, famous astronomers' lives, which we on the 62nd Global Star Party we're going to be celebrating John Dobson's birthday. So
oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so that's really cool,
awesome.
right? The famous
Yeah.
Dobsonian telescope.
Yeah.
So
That is
cool.
awesome.
That's cool. Well, we have our, everything's pretty much regular, have the regular schedule going. How do you know on Mondays, on Tuesdays, it's Jerry with the Open Go-To community. Wednesday is Kent with FirstLight Chronicles and CamStronomy. And then Thursdays, how do you know? And then Friday is focus on
Thursday's not how do you know? Thursday's
On the wing.
On the way. Oh my gosh, I keep doing that.
Yeah, you were just talking about the contest, right?
Oh, sorry. Listen,
How about Friday?
How
What's
do you
happening on Friday?
I just want to let everybody know out there, if you call us, and I've had to apologize, we are a little bit short-staffed right now and things are a little bit crazy. So my mind is like, do on the next thing. So, but we're handling fair. And so,
Right.
but yeah, so it's on the wing is on Thursdays, and then focus on astrophotography Friday. And then the only thing that we had this month that ended up getting canceled was the Stars and Sauce. So because of COVID.
But I think they took the right decision.
Yeah,
They
well,
did, yeah.
And the other thing is in October that we've talked about the Dark Sky the Buffalo
Yes.
River Dark Sky Festival has also been canceled. That was October 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or something like that. That has also been canceled for this year, rescheduled for next year.
Okay. So yeah, please pay attention to the calendar, because as things get canceled or moved or whatever, we'll make sure we update that and try to make everybody aware of those changes as quickly as possible, because we know, last minute learning something is not always the most fun thing to do. So, but anyways, otherwise we're doing good. We're growing. We have more members. I was so excited. We actually got I don't know if it's our first member from the Bresser website. Is that our first time we've ever done that, Scott? So yeah, so so if you get on the Bresser website, you can also become a legacy member on there too. We have our membership on there, and so we're going to try to update that as well, so you can go into that new system. But yeah, that was pretty exciting to see that. on my desk this morning. So yeah,
Well,
it's going
Annie
good.
loves
It's
new
good.
members. She
I
does.
do. I love it. I love it. It's so much fun to see it. So
They give her work to do. She doesn't have anything
Came
else to
skipping
do.
into my office.
like,
Screaming,
Yeah.
I got a new one.
I got a new member. Oh my goodness. I don't think you're.
Well,
I don't
that's
think
cool. That's a good kind of crazy. I like it.
so. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So, but yeah, that's what's
All
going
right.
on with
Well, Annie,
science.
thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. So, Kent, you and I talked earlier about things that are going on in the astronomical community, and the recent worldwide growth of amateur astronomy has, everybody's noticed it. The magazines, astronomy clubs, virtually everywhere where amateur astronomers can connect. Most of it's online right now, but there is the strongest growth in the amateur astronomical community that I've seen since the when Halley's Comet was arriving. Okay, where a bunch of people got in and got involved with clubs and stuff. In fact, the pandemic may have caused even more growth than that. I don't have any more than anecdotal evidence about the growth during Halley's Comet, but that is when I really seriously got into the hobby of amateur astronomy. I was already selling Celestron and Coulter Odyssey Dobsonians and all kinds of telescopes. But yeah, it was really a fascinating time. And so, we wanted to talk a little bit about, all these new people that are coming in,
So-
and, how do they explore the night sky and navigate COVID,
Cautiously and carefully and with planning, I guess is the easiest answer. With the pandemic still, hospitals as full as they've ever been, especially in some states, there is, caution still to be exercised. So it presents a challenge. One way is through, programs like ours that draw people together. Another way is, you can socially distance and still have a club star party. You meet somewhere with wide open spaces, typically anyway for a star party. So you can be 15 feet apart. And if Cam and I are sitting there 15 feet apart, we can still enjoy each other's company and have conversation and great, friendship building. And we can bring new people in the fold, and just need to be cautious about switching telescopes and, going over to their telescope and looking and if you do that, wipe the eyepiece down with alcohol, which is not bad for the eyepiece, and go on down the road. Just don't rub the optics too hard. But it presents forces creative ways to get together.
Yes.
So, but we all as astronomers need to try and embrace the new people that have purchased telescopes to keep them in the hobby. I've seen Facebook groups, and I know Cameron's on a couple of groups that, there's people just wringing their hands waiting for the great deals to occur. When people start having garage sales and start putting out expensive optics and, dumping them for pennies on the dollar. And we don't want that to happen. We want those people to find enjoyment and pleasure
into
Right.
something that was supposed to be a transformative experience,
Right.
but oftentimes to get that transformative experience, you need to be under somebody's wing a little bit, so.
And it scares people to go meet a stranger that's not been in their normal bubble. And, you can't say, here's how to do it, grab their telescope and show them, and then let them do it without wiping everything down or running the risk of contamination, of germ transmission. So it does present challenges, but I think we need to find people to mentor either in person or remotely, because, I've used the example of, I was trout fishing once and catching trout left and right. And this mama with a little maybe 5 or 6-year-old came down and had a big bobber, a hook that was like, massive, and was not going to catch any fish. And I showed her how to fish. And they started catching a few fish. And, it wasn't a lot, but it was their entry point. I would love to know if they continued to fish. I hope they did. But sometimes a little bit of help goes a long way for a lot of people. And Cameron, when Cameron started getting into this, did you have to figure this out yourself, Cameron, or did you have someone helping you?
I mean, you guys, well, let me just wait. I had 2 audio connections. Sorry for that.
We can
Okay,
still
there we
hear
go.
you.
Yeah, okay. No, the basic, yeah, I have to say, even though I've had a lot of experience, having you guys, you've been a big inspiration. I think I mentioned it before, and I just want to remind everyone that Saturn Jupiter conjunction event that you guys went, Scott, you had a big marathon with all, David Levy, David and David Eicher and the whole gang, and Christopher Go. It was that was like I was right into it, and
That was a
helped
real global
tremendously.
star party.
That was truly global. I couldn't believe what a marathon. I was like,
All the
wow.
way around from
Yeah.
Asia to the Americas to, South America to Europe. It was pretty cool. So
Yeah. And then you guys continuing this, and that's why I'm inspired. I'm astronomy, just be honest with you guys. A lot of astronomers and astronomy is really a reclusive hobby in many cases. It's very independent experience, right? That's just this is what I found is it's kind of a private thing for many people, including myself. For many years, it was just my own little world, right? I was connected, but now you start to see the community. I was kind of like. So the outreach part of this and the I think COVID and all these events really made me feel much more connected to the community, which was really interesting. So I have to say that what you're doing with this consistent live streams and all the different programs, the global star parties, that contributes massively to be able to include a lot of people that would normally be on their own and connect them and help them, like you said, Kent, get under your wing to be able to really enjoy the hobby, still privately, but at the same time still connected with a broader community.
Right. It's about connections, and you're exactly right. Astronomy can be a very solitary pursuit. And I think that's why people turn to it. They realize they could do astronomy from their backyard, stay in their hopefully in their COVID-free bubble, and still do astronomy. But, having guidance and, more information than ever available at your fingertips, with a phone or a computer and the internet is fantastic. But that personal connection is really what makes it. And I know I have people asking me all the time, when's your astronomy club going to do something? When is the NWA space, the science center, when are they going to have another star party out at the land? And, people are craving that human connection again. And,
That's exactly right.
Just as people start to want, think they're going to have an event, it gets, cut. The town here that has a First Friday festival, Bentonville, is having their First Friday, but they're going to, masks are more or less required. You can't have any touching of anything. So, it's going to be, and they've cut like half the vendors so they can spread everybody out. So that's happening. They're doing that. And, it'll be interesting to see what the crowd is like. I really expect it to be potentially down, but, I go some places and I see people not masked up in big crowds, and it's like, it scares me, that You know,
Well,
there's still,
you know for a fact that that some people are being infected right there. You know,
Oh.
if you see a bunch of people together and you look at the stats and you go, okay, it's a little bit of a stretch to go, okay, no one here is being affected here. No one.
every person here is not going to get it.
Everybody's okay.
You know,
Fortunately, that's not the case, and so we have to do what we can do, and it's you know, if it's not to protect yourself, it's to protect other people. You know,
Yeah,
the vulnerable.
Yeah.
and again,
And
kids under 12 can't get vaccinated.
yes.
You know,
Yes.
so there's a
I
whole
mean, I think-
population there.
But I think we've learned a lot of things, you know, in
We
this
have.
year. We've learned a lot, and I think there's a lot of momentum between, you know, there's a combination of burnout, but also people being cautiously optimistic and taking precautions, being more respectful.
Sure.
And you know, my daughter is entering her senior year. She's going back to school. She just had her first day yesterday, and yeah, I mean, they're masked up and basically, you know, there's going to be some adjustments definitely to the whole thing, but you know, the next generation, this is the beautiful part about humanity, is that life is a very positive force, right? I mean, we want to be together, we want to share, we want to, you know, interact, and so we found ways to do that with the virtual, but then it will just make it all the sweeter when we can finally, like I see my daughter and her friends, they're having a great time reconnecting again, you know, now that things are semi-opening up, you know, and they just, everyone can connect the dots. Everyone wants to live, right? I mean, you don't want to degrade your quality of life, you know, by not taking precautions. Some people learn the hard lesson, right? Unfortunately, you know, and that's really unfortunate for them and their families and that. But I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and we can still have fun. We can make things through, and it will only get better. It will only get better going. So,
you know, look for ways to connect with people, either, you know, in socially distanced settings, whether they're your astronomy club members, you know, or reach out and find people online, you know, connect with people and ask questions. There's Facebook groups, there's chat rooms, there's all sorts of ways to reach out and find information. You know, ask on our shows. I mean, you've got the founder and president of a large astronomy
You
company.
got Kent Marts and you got Cameron Gillis.
You know, Scott has decades of experience, you know, on the retail side and the creative side of this business. You know, I've been doing it for my whole life in the background, and, you know, doing amateur astronomy, and really got serious about it 20 plus years ago. Cameron's really jumped in with both feet, you know, but ask questions on these shows. Send us an email. You don't have to have an Explore Scientific mount or telescope.
No.
Our customer service folks will answer questions. I'm having trouble with this. Okay, try this. We try and find answers for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm an example of the proletariat, I guess you could say, of the astronomy community. You know, just the average person just getting back into it, and you know, it's been, you guys have been so welcoming, Scott and Kent, and
hey,
you know,
Cameron,
just, I hope, yeah.
Your one of your microphones is it's not the one with your video
there we go.
picking up.
That's better.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just clicking. So yeah. So like I was saying, I'm just the average astronomer, proletariat. There's nothing special. I just want, you know. So I hope everyone here is watching, and everyone who, you know, gets some inspiration to say, hey, this is a very inclusive community. Very welcoming. We really want to mentor and help. Nobody has all the experience and you know, all the perfect answers, but as a team and as a community, you know, what Scott and Kent and this, you know, Explore Scientific has done is created an environment and that of inclusivity, and then really leverage broad experience, everything from PhD astronomers, you know, to veteran astronomers that have, you know, been in the industry for many years, to people like me who, just as I'm a hobbyist and I'm getting back into it, and you know, sharing my journey. So it's a blast.
Yeah, that's cool. And for anybody out there that, you're thinking about starting a club, or you are a member of a club, or you're a club president or whatever, and you have been not connecting with your community, I'm certainly happy to teach you how to do some simple broadcasting, and then to kind of take it up a few notches as you'd like to. I try to keep the programs simple to put together, and so that we can do them often and make that part of the flow of the day. So it's not, it doesn't have to be some sort of daunting, huge production, okay, to do this. But the important part is that, you're there for them. You're creating an environment, sharing your knowledge, your passion, those kinds of things. That's what people come to astronomy clubs for, and so, I'm very happy to turn anyone on to that. So
get out there and do something. Seeing the opening statement that talked about things coming up, that was, Mercury is a planet that most people haven't seen.
right.
So this is an opportunity coming up to show people in your bubble Mercury if you got a telescope, and while it's a small bright dot, it does go through phases of the moon, just like the moon does.
Yeah, you can see a little tiny crescent. It's cool.
See little crescents and stuff, but it's just cool to say, hey, I picked up another planet, and it's naked eye if you know where to look, but with a telescope, it's a bright dot, and very, very bright, and depending on where it is in its orbit around the sun, it can be a very small, almost a new moon crescent, and just way cool to see, and take the opportunity to go show somebody, Mercury. And again, Arcturus and Altair, two beautiful contrasting stars, both of them up, easy to find because they're really bright. They'll show up on any simple, manual planisphere on your phone. There's all sorts of ways to find them, but go find them, and and just get out and do. That's what it comes down to, is just going out and doing something. And a term I've started using, and I guess on the astrophotography show on Friday, Ross has said this a couple of times. Don't let the quest for doing things perfectly get in the way of going out and doing things good enough. Go start doing. Sometimes, there's a book out there, don't let good enough is the enemy of perfection or whatever. If you quest to get everything perfect before you start using your telescope, you'll never use your telescope.
Yeah, you'll rarely use it anyway.
Oh, and it's the fun factor, Kent. I mean, perfection means that you're never going to be satisfied, which means you're not going to have fun. You got to have fun. Yeah, and the most fun is when you do have actually something screw up, and you kind of laugh at it and say, hey, actually pretty good. You kind of have to take a step back and it's like, hey, I learned something there, or you got to really enjoy the journey. And so,
and you don't become really skilled without problem solving. So you got to have some problems.
Yep.
You have to have those problems. That's how, if you're a pilot, that's how you get to be a better pilot. You have to solve problems. That's how astronauts do it. That's how.
But the key thing,
skill does it.
The key thing, and I'll share a little bit, is you need to set your expectations. Don't overwhelm yourself with a lot of impossible things. And this is, I think, what you were going to, Kent. If you start to, for example, some people might buy all the expensive gear on first go. You're setting yourself up for a lot of things. It's too many things that are going to get in the way of the fun. So you need to make sure that you kind of do bite size to make sure you enjoy, and make sure you have a manageable amount of challenges. Because if you have only challenges, it takes away the fun.
And the other thing we face is there's so many beautiful pictures like the one in your background that people's expectations, and Jerry and I have talked about this a little bit, people's expectations are to see M42 just like it looks over your right shoulder. And that's not how it looks. That's not how it ever is going to look. But when people look through, whether it's an inexpensive telescope or a very expensive telescope, is irrelevant. It is not going to look that way. And expectations are hard to manage when people think they're going to look at Jupiter and be able to see the festooning, and the great red spot is going to stick out like a sore thumb. It's a challenge, and managing those expectations, I find, when I've doing star parties, is a huge challenge, because they think they can see that, and then they think they can hold this up to the camera, to the phone, and go to the eyepiece and go click. And as I'm sure you've tried, holding your smartphone up to an eyepiece and getting a good picture is not easy, and it's frankly a challenge. But we have now started setting up a telescope at star parties where people can go over and try it, because they want to do it so bad, and they keep trying. The lines get longer and longer and longer at our telescopes. So we've been trying to do that. So anyway, all right, it's 4:38. I'm going to turn over the airplane rudder and stick to Cameron.
Okay.
So
All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
yeah.
While we're doing that, I have like a little feature film I thought that Cameron might enjoy.
Hang on just a second before we go. I just got a text message from one of our web marketing people. The astrophotography is now up and live. Contest is now up and live on our website.
Oh, good.
So
Okay.
you can go to explorescientific.com, and under, let's see, imaging, and
Or live.
then let's see, where's contest at?
I'll bet. Here, let's share my screen here.
Yeah, you can, and then share the link. I thought it was under imaging. Explore Alliance, that's where it's going to be.
Let's see, Explore Scientific.
So go under Explore Alliance, and then Solar Astrophotography.
There's
yeah,
Explore
there it is.
Alliance.
Yep.
And then
Solar Astrophotography Contest under Events and Experiences.
there we go.
Right there. There you go.
Ta-da.
Simon and Gary are going to win, eh?
And then you just read all the rules and stuff, and then click there to enter. Auto save my work. Okay, great.
That is something that would be really good to get into, solar astronomy. That's yeah.
Yeah, look at that,
That was the time.
$100.
That was the time.
That's
Yes.
pretty nice.
The National Park Service uses the term half the park is after dark.
Yes.
For astrophotographers, half the day, I don't know how to make it rhyme, but half the day is with the sun, and the sun is a great astrophotography contest. Warning, never use your telescope to look at the sun without using safe solar film or filters. If you don't know what you're doing, do not attempt it, because like they said in the Christmas story, but this time it's true, you will put your eye out, and you don't want to boil your eyeball inside your skull, or burn a permanent image of the sun on your retina. And Scott has a video of how quickly, instantaneously, it melts solar safe film when it's put where your eyeball would be on the telescope.
We discussed this before, but we had an experienced amateur astronomer. I'm not going to name who it was, but they called up customer service, and just to double check before they did it, they said, "Is it okay for me to use my solar glasses while looking through my telescope?" and
the
I
answer
immediately
is a
grabbed a
giant
telescope,
no.
went out front. I mean, I didn't even waste 10 minutes. Shot that video and put that thing up on YouTube as quickly as I could.
Good work.
Because if you're not using a safe over the lens of the front of your telescope solar filter, there's just too much energy coming through, and it burns through. If you got solar eclipse glasses on, it just burns right through that. I mean, and it does look like a laser. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, because it effectively is a laser. I mean, it's astounding how much energy there is in concentrated sunlight.
Well, we're getting it all
Yeah.
from a star, so
Yep.
yep. Well, be careful out there.
Enough. I just had to throw that warning in for obvious reasons.
Yes.
I like everybody's eyes not scarred for life.
So there's some comments here. Maxi Falaris, who was on last night with the Global Star Party, says, "Hi, everybody. When I show people through a telescope some deep sky object, first I try to get them set on the telescope, and then I show them an astrophoto of what it looks like, and then they see it again, and give it sense." Okay, so yeah, that's also very useful. I think that Maxie, what you're doing is great because you're showing a lot of people have seen the astrophotos of these deep sky objects, but they haven't seen it live. So to see it live versus what you can get in photography kind of inspires a couple of things. One is that you're teaching them how to capture those photons live with their own eyeballs, but you're inspiring them maybe to take up a hobby in astrophotography at the same time. So very cool. Carol Locke says, "I've had many problems myself with the astrophotography side and learned the basics now and realize as the reasons progress using binoculars present a new learning experience." Okay, great. Harold Locke says, "Looking forward to getting the best views with the best telescope I've owned so far." Wonderful. Celestron, this is from Martin Eastburn. Celestron warned us in the 80s that lenses would crack. I've seen filters crack, especially the ones, they used to sell telescopes, department store telescopes with a neutral density filter that would screw into the eyepiece.
Oy. Oy.
Those things crack in a heartbeat. I mean, and then what happens is you got light rays coming straight through it. In 1983, I went to my first star party in Texas, first big star party, and they had a news crew out there, and we were getting a partial eclipse, a partial of what would have been an annular eclipse, which you could have, by the way, seen near New Orleans during that time. But we're in Texas, so we're getting a partial, and we had one of these small telescopes with that filter that you screw into the eyepiece. And somebody had a stopwatch. In under a minute, okay, there was so much heat that it cracked the filter, okay? And we had a white piece of papers, and when you heard it pop, you could see white light hitting the paper right then, okay? That amount of time, that brief fraction of a second, is enough time for sunlight to damage your eye, okay? So it's real exciting to do solar astronomy, but you need to know how to do it safely, and and you need the right kind of equipment. So take those necessary steps to learn it and learn it right, and you can have a rewarding experience. So
I'm going to share my screen real quick. Here's a picture of an eye doctor took of someone who looked at the sun, and that's a picture of their retina.
oh,
Ouch.
It's a burned in image
Wow.
on her retina.
permanently burned in image.
Yes,
It looks like a solar eclipse.
that's what it
looks
is.
like it was
That's
just
what it
starting
was.
at the moon. The moon took a chunk out of it, and then that was
Yep.
the only part, and she thought they can look at it. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yep.
Ah,
So,
Oh.
and there's multiple cases. There's other pictures, of people that shows the same thing. So, it's all fun and, happiness until you put your eye out. So anyway, we've talked about enough of the warnings but if you're seeing this for the first time and need help on how to do it, call customer service, email us, go to the portal. We'll tell you what to do, and we'll get you set up down the right course.
That's
Glad
right.
to help.
That's right. Okay, so let's transition a little bit here. I've got this, Cameron, I've got this really cool little video, which I think you're going to like. Might make you remember some, the mission to the moon in a more nostalgic way. But I thought this was kind of cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Let's see.
All right, we're gonna roll. Ready? Set. The impact crater with at just prior to the subsolar point on the south side, and the floor of it nearly even except there is one dark hole.
Now, Cameron, this video was made with some computer graphics, but it was also taken with real images from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. Okay, so 45 years later, after Apollo 8 had this orbit around the moon, they were able to exactly reproduce it and show for the very first time what the astronauts really saw. Okay, and that's
Awesome.
coming up right here.
Awesome.
I couldn't get a quick enough look at it to see if it might be anything volcanic.
They're actually turning the spacecraft.
Oh, this is cool.
Oh my God, look at that picture over there.
Oh, Earth, right.
Wow, that's pretty. Hey, don't
Oh
take
my
that
God.
off schedule.
Beautiful. Oh, I like that.
You got a color film, Jim? Hand me a roll of color quick.
Oh
will you?
man, that's
Hurry.
great. Where is it?
Quick.
This is the first time that astronauts had seen the Earth
Down here.
rise
Just grab me a color.
from the
A color
horizon of the
exterior.
moon.
Yes,
There you
It's
go.
like
I remember
it's like
that.
hurry, hurry, hurry.
On the radio chatter too. This is awesome. The holy.
That one?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking for one. C368.
Anything, quick.
I mean,
Here.
he knows he's going to miss it.
We missed it.
Now,
Yeah,
in
because they're rolling.
that first window, they have a Hasselblad with an 80 millimeter. This other window, they've got a Hasselblad with like a 210 millimeter.
Hey, I got it
lens.
right here.
Let me get up this a lot clearer.
Bill, I got it framed. It's very clear right here.
Awesome.
Take several.
Take several of them. Here, give it to me.
Wait a minute, let me just get the right setting.
Bracket your exposure.
Oh, I got it.
Calm
right.
down,
I just
Lovell.
had a shot. 250
Wow.
on 11.
Yeah, remember that exposure the next time that you're on a
Now, there's
tourist
exposure.
trip to the moon.
Yeah, there we go.
Very good.
Very the exposure bracket.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, that was
Yeah.
fantastic. That is. It really makes you feel the experience. Oh man. Yep, like you're there. Wow. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Scott. That was really nice to share. That was
That's
really
cool, Scott. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey everyone. Now we're in week 15 or episode 15 of CamStronomy. We started way back in Virgo at the eastern edge of Virgo and went through the kind of the late spring, summer constellations. Now we're into Cygnus. So let me share my screen. Let's see here. Oops, I don't want to show that. I want to show this. Here we go. Okay, so can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, we were talking with on the Global Star Party yesterday with Pekka just a refresher for everyone. All of this survey is based on my original observations, visual observations, which to date I have 3,000, and categorizing those into what I consider best and brightest. 821 objects are in that category, a subset of the full observation list. There's still a couple objects, just to be clear, this number hasn't changed for a while because there are a couple constellations. Eridanus is one. In the winter months here in the Pacific Northwest, we have very few clear nights, so I wasn't able to get a lot of the galaxies in those constellations. So this number will probably start to go up again with visual observations in the fall and the winter time, if I can get some clear nights. But in the meantime, I got a good chunk. I pretty much got 90% of everything I want to see. And then we are going to date, we kind of are going through this list of 821 objects and going through with the CamStronomy Sky Survey and following up with images so I can share my experience, my visual experiences with everyone here and start to build a catalog of both smartphone and it started off with a smartphone, but now I've added an dedicated astronomy camera. And to date, we are now at 182 Sky Survey images that we've shared together, and of 125 objects. So we have today, we're going to be looking at 14 new images and 8 new objects. And we're going to we're going to continue in Cygnus. Cygnus has about 30 best and brightest objects, so that I've subjectively considered as best and brightest that are really nice to look at. And it's all in Cygnus, so we're going to continue. And then I also want to share, recently, I'm very happy and a very proud owner of a brand new XF2 PMC8 equatorial mount. And I tell you, what a beautiful machine. And I'm now relearning equatorial mount, polar alignment, and all the stuff that comes with that. And so I'll share a little bit of what I've done to date on that. And I'm focusing on visual initially. And then ultimately, of course, it's going to be my main astronomy astrophotography rig. And I'm going to get that all cabled up and really nice and everything. But for now, just learning the ropes, getting realigned with polar alignment, pun intended, and we'll talk about that. And yeah, so let's dive in. We left off in Cygnus with the Crescent Nebula. So this is the image I took in July. And let me just go to what do you call it? Let's go to my Sky Safari. Here we go in Sky Safari. So I zoom in. So this is last night at around 9 o'clock in Pacific time. And we started off in the southwestern corner of Cygnus. And we did these objects here and went to the Crescent Nebula. So if I go back to my presentation, now we're moving into the next object, which is a cluster, 6910, which is right beside, please zoom in here, right inside Gamma Cygnus, right in the middle of Cygnus cross. There's a nebulosity which is called the Satyr region. So Satyr is obviously the bright star in the middle, but just to the left, just to the east, is a cluster called 6910. And that cluster, magnitude 7.4, let's take a look at it. It's 3,500 light years away. And this is a smartphone picture. And it's really, I love these. I took this earlier back in June. But I really like, the smartphone does really well with clusters. And I want to do a little bit better in the future. But you can easily see the visual play itself exactly that. This is in Sky Safari, and this is what, of course, the smartphone took. They cropped the eyepiece field of view a bit, but really nice sprinkling, a beautiful string of stars. And obviously it would be, even in a binoculars, of course, this would be a beauty to see. Next one, right surrounding that cluster, actually just to a little bit to the south, is it's actually centered up here. It's called Gamma Cygni Nebula. So it's quite a large complex, but because of my field of view, as you can see in my both my eyepiece field of view and also my imaging field of view, which is a square box, you can see that it's very limited. I don't have my ED80. I'll be getting that. When I have that, it's going to be beautiful. I'll be able to get the entire region. But for now, at 1280 focal length, at 2000 focal length with visual, with the eyepiece, and then I use an f6.3 focal reducer for the imaging train, that they roughly have the same field of view, but you can see it's limited. So what I did with these larger nebulae, and you'll see the same when we get to the North American Nebula and the Veil Nebula, is I basically took a region that was one of the brighter regions and then kind of got that captured. So if you look at this, and that's the same thing, by the way, visually. If you use an O3 or UHC filter, you see this wisp. You don't see the color, obviously, but you do see this wispiness here by this brighter star. And the way you see that with averted vision, as you pan visually, you'll see kind of this darkening and brightening. These higher contrast areas, you will be able to see that barely. But when you get into this outer regions, you definitely see a little bit of brightening, but you don't see as much texture. It's mainly in these fabric area. But this is a nice nebula. And if I look at the specs on Gamma Cygni, let's go here. It's it says visual magnitude 10. I noticed that that is the default for a lot of the nebulosity, the diffuse or nebulae in Sky Safari. So I don't think that's really the case because it's quite a large nebula, right? And so you don't really know exactly. So I don't know how they categorize the actual visual magnitude, but it's 1.5 thousand light years away. Really nice. It's been photographed many times. There's another photograph. Very good to photography, astrophotography for wide field or even a DSLR with a lens. Very popular area. Okay. Moving along a little bit to the north. Let's go zoom back out here a bit. Next one is 6819. Where are we? Here we are. A little bit more to the east, 6819. Another open cluster. Magnitude 7.3, so quite bright. And if we view it, well, this is a little bit further away, 7.8 thousand light years away. So it's one of the further clusters in this grouping. And it's nice. It's a fairly tight cluster. I really enjoy, the clusters that have kind of the lighter and the fainter stars in a tighter configuration. So this is very pleasing to see visually with the placement. And this is a rich. All the open clusters tend to be in. Most of them tend to be in very rich parts of the Milky Way, where you have actually a lot of nice stars in the surrounding that are brighter and provide some good frame of reference, and it makes you a really nice setting. So, okay, another open cluster. We got, let me zoom back out here. 6866. This open cluster, a lot of the open clusters in the magnitude 7 range here that were bright enough, and it's 3.9, almost 4,000 light years away. And if we look at the picture, again, another fairly tight grouping, one brighter star here, but you can see the visual plates all, again, with the smartphone, nice sprinkling of stars, a very nice, pleasing object. Moving on to another open cluster. 6811, a little just off the wing, Alphawaris in the Cygnus on the cross. You go just off the wingtip, and this one here is magnitude 6.8, one of the brighter ones. And let's take a look at the distance, 4,000 light years. So it's brighter, but a little bit further than the last one we saw. And it has a nice kind of evenly bright stars in a medium density, I would call it, concentration. But you can see clearly the visual plate solve is very much in line. And that was an earlier June target.
It looks like you have even more stars than the reference image.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And then go to the next one. Yes. Blinking planetary nebula. Yes. This one is one of those objects I mentioned in previous episodes, which is a fantastic benchmark for moon skies. If it's bright and it's a clear night and you really want to see something, go check out these planetary nebulae that are all along the belt of the Milky Way. And this is one of those. Blinking planetary, very bright. If we look at the information on that guy, see magnitude 8.8, I mean, or 8.9, really bright and like super, and a beautiful object. You won't see this. I'm going to work on it looks like there's an outer ring too. That will be a challenge for imaging. But anyhow, it's at 4,000 light years away. And if we go to the pictures, this is my smartphone image. You can see clearly non-stellar, very concentrated, quite bright. This is another smartphone image I took a little later. So this was at the beginning of June and this is at the end. And I zoomed in and you can see a little bit of structure on the outer ring when I zoom in. And this is with a smartphone compared to this image. This is my, I think I mentioned this previously too, where when I get to my astro imaging camera, I still don't have the focal length and the image scale to really eke out all the more detailed structure of more stellar planetary nebula. And this is one of those. I need to probably zoom in and I need to do some more work. This is before I got into my calibration frames that make it nice and flat. As you can see, there's some big netting. Actually, I even see it's kind of patchy. I think that was in the trees a little bit. There was some, it was just rising, and I think I have a little bit of trees to my east. Anyhow, so that's the best image I could take, but it's one of those objects that, you know, if you look at the smartphone image, it would be nice to come back to. But visually, just a beauty, nice and bright, and highly recommended. With the central star very clearly seen. Next one. Zoom back out. What are we doing? 6824. Okay, so let's move over here. 6824. Aha. Even though David hates galaxies, I love them. Just joking. 6824 is a galaxy in Cygnus, magnitude 12.1. So it's kind of on the edge. As I mentioned in my survey, I said my survey included down to magnitude 12. I'm actually including down to magnitude 13 is the absolute limit I put filters. So this one was concentrated enough. If I take a look at the object information, it's small enough. It's magnitude 12, like say 12.1, 180 million light years away. So definitely not a member of the local group, not even of any of others. So it's really, really far away. Not as far as like the Hercules clusters or some of those, but it's pretty darn far. And if I look at the image, this is my smartphone. I was really happy. That shows you how bright and concentrated it is. Even with a smartphone with a 10-second exposure, I was able to eke out. You can actually see that, and this is what it looks like visually. I mean, this is what you're going to see. So, which is what I'm after actually. So you can see a nice little star beside it. I love it when there's a frame of reference, so you can quickly see that it's non-stellar. And when you do that averted vision, you can see the extensions beyond the nucleus. So that's a nice object. And then, but I didn't get an astro imaging follow-up on that one yet. And then the last object for for today's survey is the fireworks galaxy. Let's zoom into that guy. Right on the hairy edge, literally, of the boundary. For some reason, I don't know why this is the case. There's probably some history, but there's a weird little constellation border inlet, kind of like the panhandle of Oklahoma. You got this little extension here, and the fireworks galaxy is actually in Cygnus. You can see the nucleus just fits on this side of Cygnus, which is really funny. So anyhow, the fireworks galaxy, if we take a look at that, quite bright as far as the magnitude is concerned, but visually it's tough. Let me just get the specs on it. Yeah, there we go. And it's known for that. Of course, William Herschel discovered it, as he did many things. But I think it's known because it has 9 supernova. That's why it's called the fireworks galaxy. You can see they're all labeled here. So it's in a very rich field. So what's interesting about this one is you want to make sure you have a good moonless night. That's not that gives you that extra contrast, and that will allow you to eke it out. It's 22 million light years away, and if I look at the images, here's the smartphone. This is actually what it would be like visually. Typically, you could just make out the nucleus here.
You just get it.
Yeah, just barely, and that's kind of the feeling that you get when you're looking. But obviously, if you have a dark night, it's a fun. It will look like M33, where it's bright enough, but it's diffuse. So you need to have that good contrast in a moonless night to be able to really eke it out. And then I started doing some astro imaging, and this is my first attempt, the middle of June. Very grainy image, vignetting and everything, but you can start to see the multiple spiral arms that match the visual plate solving here. And then if we go to the next one, it took a longer exposure with a different focal length, and then finally, then I played around with 10-second stacking. So this is a more flat image, and but you can see that I didn't stretch it, so you can just see the nucleus. This is actually more what you'd see visually. So again, I'm experimenting with different things, because what I'm ultimately going to have in the catalog is I'm going to have the nice picture of it, and so you can really clearly see what you can, for imagers. And I'm also going to have this type of picture, which is going to show what you can see visually. And so I'm going to make sure I stretch it and adjust it and change the exposure so that I can get that feeling of what it would look like through an eyepiece to set the right expectations. But this is a very good representation of what it would look like visually. And then finally, I got my best image of it so far, but you can see there's like line noise and stuff, but at least I took care of the flat. It's a little brighter on the bottom left, but you can see some more structure here. And if you zoom in, you can see the center of the barring in the middle and the multiple bars.
And Cameron, what camera is that with?
This is the so this is the ASI 294 MC, non-cooled. And so basically, if I look at the setup, just as a reminder, let me just go back here. This is my smartphone setup, where I just simply have an eyepiece. The 26 millimeter exposed scientific 62 is perfect for that, for a smartphone. And then I have my XYZ. All those images were taken with that, the smartphone. And then I have my phone adapter. I use my tablet with my Sky Safari, and then the phone itself taking the images. So that's very simple to set up. And again, this is how I started, and this is how I recommend anyone start, with just a simple setup, minimum equipment, and then you'd be set. You could technically have Sky Safari on your phone as well to control, but then you'd want to have that on a separate phone, because that gets a little bit weird when you touch the. You don't want to play around once you've got your phone focused through the eyepiece. You don't want to play with that if you can help it. Then we get into the little more elaborate answer again to your question, but just just quickly mention that I added the astro imaging setup here with the imaging train with the 294 MC. And now I'm happy to say, this is a picture of my new rig,
Yeah.
which has a beautiful Exos 2 with PMC8. You can see it just on the side here. If I zoom in, what I did is when I got this, first of all, beautiful, built like a tank, just really awesome machine. I was very happy, got it all set up. And then basically I started the first thing, make sure I'm all balanced. Also make sure all the cord wrap, I don't get all tangled. And then what I did is, you see what I've done is I've set this up. I initially set it up with this imaging train. I literally took just the telescope without the piggybacked one here, which is my Mac 102, which, by the way, I got some Lost Mandy rings on order, and then of course ED80. That's going to be ultimately what it's going to be. I'm going to have an ED80, my FCD 100 ED80 Explorer Scientific ED80, piggybacked on this dovetail here with Lost Mandy rings, and once that's set up, it's going to be just a beautiful rig, because then I'll have the wide field and the long focal length on the same system, and it handles it really well. As you can see, the counterweights are kind of in mid-span here, so it works out really well, even with this Mac 102 stucking out here. I just got a cheap, I didn't get the Lost Mandy rings here, so I had to kind of play around with some shimming to make sure these tubes are relatively in the same field of view. But what I did initially is I took this image train and I stuck it on, and I just, as soon as I couldn't wait to try it out, and let's see if I could do plug and play. Forget it. You guys, just a lesson learned, when you go to equatorial, and this was the challenge. This is the thing we were talking about earlier. A big thing that's going to turn people off is jumping in, getting equatorial, going all out, and getting all the imaging here, and say, okay, it's just too many. There are lots of little details that you need to understand, and that's the reason why I took the path that I took, which is stick with alpha azimuth initially, figure out the astro imaging, figure out the smartphone, then the astro imaging. Then again, I just, as an engineer, I couldn't wait. I wanted to play it out, and I had issues with polar alignments. That's the fact. I mean, it just, I had to remind myself how to do it. I had to talk with Kent, and he reminded me about cone error. So I needed to look at that, and I played with that. So then I kind of took a step back and said, okay, let's go back to the basics, make sure I can get everything working, get used to the setup with Explore Stars, with the calibration visually, so that I can get a nice, reliable workflow visually, make sure I can improve the point accuracy based on my polar alignment. And I had a good night last night. I just wanted to share. So this is the rig that I set up. I added this Mac 102 because ultimately I wanted to have it so that I could have this is actually a slightly shorter focal length. It's like 1300 millimeter. This is 2000 millimeter, but I put the Explorer Scientific, the 6226 on this guy, and that gives me a good wider field. And then basically, what I do is when I'm doing the star alignment, eventually I'm going to have it so that my image train is going to be on this initially, and then I can use the visual for my star alignment. But of course, I have to have the Lost Mandy rings and all that. But I'm just kind of testing that out for workflow purposes with the Mac 102, because that's what I have today. And then, but I had a fun time last night after the star party. I was tired, but I was like, you know what? It was a clear night. I have to go out. And I can tell you guys, anytime, just do it. Just go out there, because guess what? When I got it aligned, I did just a simple 2-star alignment. I kind of roughly put it in line, and then I managed to get all these laser binders and also the tubes aligned. I got the cone error pretty much in reasonable error, and then I tested it out, and I got pretty good pointing accuracy. Not awesome, but good enough so that I actually looked at Jupiter, and Jupiter. I highly recommend it anytime there's a clear night, even if you're going to go out for a couple of minutes, well, a half an hour, let's say. You got to look at Jupiter every chance you can, because Jupiter has moons that always move around and cause shadows and stuff. So what I was lucky, let me just go to yesterday at 10. Let me go here, just get the timing here. So August 31st at it was around 11:30. Yeah, this is good enough. 11:53. Okay. And if I go down to the southern, and it's north, if I go to the southern horizon, you can see Jupiter is really well placed. I just passed opposition, as we know. And I decided, okay, Saturn was good too. Of course, I looked at that. It was nice. But then I zoomed in here, and if you go all the way in, this is exactly what I saw. And here's the cool part. Callisto, you can't really, barely see it, but there is actually, there it is. You see that? I saw a transit. It's called, I actually saw the shadow of Callisto, and that was a beautiful black dot. And I had, in going back to my setup, I had my 26mm eyepiece in this guy that gave me a nice wide field view, and you could see it at high contrast. Of course, smaller aperture gave it, made it the seeing no issues, but it was pretty steady seeing last night. So when I looked through this guy with my Nagler 13mm at 250 power, so boy, what a beauty! You could see the festoons, you could see the belts, and you could see that transit. And it was beautiful, and of course all the moons in a row. So, and of course the equatorial was working beautifully. Really good controls, and yeah, I was very happy.
And Cameron, what's cool about it is you can actually see the shadow move over half an hour if you keep watching.
Oh yeah, you could see it move. Yeah. I started I started at 10 o'clock, and I think it was over here, and then later on it started moving across the middle.
Yeah.
You're right, and it changes shape too, because as it goes more to the edge, it gets bigger, right, and then wider or oblong.
Yeah, it elongates, right?
Elongates, yeah. So yep.
You a while ago you were talking about our discussion about cone error. And cone error is something a lot of people don't even think about. And because of the way your telescope dovetail is mounted, that presents certain challenges. Let's, you want to try and talk about cone error a little bit?
Absolutely. Okay, so first of all, yeah, I got another dovetail, and you see I have it in line exactly on the opposite side, because I want to get the balance so that when I have imaging gear on here, they'll be in line. So the balance will be all good. Well, obviously, optically, with doing visual, I have the right angles on here. But yeah, so the cone error, if you look at this axis, this is your polar axis looking straight at the North Pole. But when you have your telescope, these have their own axis. Imagine you draw a stick, or you draw a laser straight through the center of these two optical tubes, and then you line it up. Cone error occurs when you draw that line all the way up that same axis, and you can imagine two parallel lines. If they're parallel, that's what you want. You don't have any cone error. But when you have one slightly off, if this tube, either one of these tubes is either facing away from that axis, so it's no longer parallel, or it's towards, when you rotate around this polar axis, essentially what you've done is you create a conical structure around, and that's what they call cone error, because that cone, and the wider that is, that deviates, the less parallel, you could say, these two axes are, or any axis of any optical along the polar axis. That is your cone error. What it basically means is when you start go-toing or tracking objects, you're not going to be perfectly aligned with the celestial sphere. Did I
So
get that right?
The way I explain it is, the polar axis is looking at, if you have it well polar aligned, is looking directly at the polar axis. But
Yeah.
if your telescope is pointing at the very center of your telescope is pointing at a different spot in the sky, then when you execute a go-to slew, your telescope is not going to be pointing at the object you're going to. Let's say it's off by 2 degrees. Well, at 2,500 millimeters, I think that's what this telescope is, you're off, a very narrow field of view. If you're off of something by 2 degrees, it may not be in the field of view of that telescope. And so somebody will say, well, the mount's not pointing correctly. Not thinking about your telescope is not pointing at the North Celestial Pole. If you don't have those lined up, you're always going to be off. And
Yes.
many times when I talk to people, they find that is in fact what's causing many of their problems. Not all, but it's one of the first things to look at, and it's the last thing many people think about, if they even think
Thank
about
you.
it without help.
Thank you, Ken. And
Yeah.
it really, again, I encourage, Ken, you've said this before, Ken, but really reach out, to Kent or Explore Scientific customer support. They're fantastic, of course, world class, and it's really important that you don't get yourself frustrated. Just make sure you understand, because I think I mentioned earlier, and I want to reiterate that this is going to equatorial. Any equatorial, doesn't matter who makes it. It's not plug and play. Okay, it's not plug and play.
There is no easy button.
There is no easy button, but the benefits, of course, when you have that experience, you will really appreciate the benefits, and it's worth going through that. And again, another reason why I encourage, I'm going to say it, don't buy an equatorial mount as your first. I really have to say that. Don't buy an equatorial mount as your first telescope. It's or if you do, just use it basically, and make sure you get a lot of help, because it's a steep learning curve. There's a lot of things you need to think about, and that's the reason why these little hoops, little barriers, you to get the most out of it, and to really, this is a precision instrument. This is a tool, and it has a lot of stuff, a lot of technology, and a lot of capability. And there's no question it's a beautiful instrument, but you can run into a lot of challenges if you don't understand all the things. And there's no, like I say, there's no easy button. So but here's another example of what I was able to enjoy last night when I got it all figured out, and I'm able to go. If I zoom out here, another thing I looked at, the last thing I looked at last night, is you can go all the way. This is in altazimuth mode right now. And then I was like, yeah, let's go directly overhead, where the atmosphere is the thinnest, the light pollution is the least, therefore the contrast is the least. So I go all the way up here, and it's like, so if I change to, that was probably just past midnight. So almost near zenith. Now, look at this. I went to 7331, which is in Pegasus. It's a beautiful galaxy. And then just to the right of it, or just down here, is Stephan's Quintet, which is a nice little grouping of 5 galaxies. This is at 76 degrees off the horizon. My go-to just won't, it crashes. That's one thing. And then even if you could go, you can imagine it rotates. It doesn't. The motor drive goes nuts.
Well, you're getting a lot of once you get overhead with the Altaz Go-To, now you're driving really fast. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And so that
field
is
rotation. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was.
And
So if we go all the way back to when I believe it was Fraunhofer, a German astronomer, who invented the German equatorial mount. It was a device that was meant to make the astronomer's life easier, because now of course he didn't have a go-to system and didn't have a bunch of other things, but he only had to move the scope along one axis to follow it all night. So that was the huge benefit. And I agree with you about if you get a equatorial mount and you have a go-to system with it, no matter what brand or type it is, if you try to take that big bite and do it all at once, okay, it can be overwhelming. It can, but you can simply attach your scope to an equatorial mount, basically level it, basically aim it north, and get close to the latitude. There's a little latitude scale on these mounts to what your latitude is. You're going to have very reasonable performance, even with the drives turned off, just by moving it and all the, and like that, because now you're only really worrying about one axis of movement as things rise in the east and set in the west.
You know what? And actually, let me just elaborate on my earlier statement. You're right on, Scott. That's why start off visual, because you have to start visual. Yes, yes, you got it right, because you can get some low hanging fruit of tracking and one axis control right away for any equatorial, even as a beginner, to your point, with some basic guidance. But just don't put astrophotography, do that right away.
Right.
There's a lot of nuances there. Yeah.
Unless you're Nico the Hammer, who is on our global star parties, and he just has a Dobsonian, no motors.
Yeah.
In
Exactly.
alt azimuth, pushing by hand, okay, and making nice astrophotographs. So.
Yes. No, but yeah, actually, that goes to Scott. That goes to what you and I were talking about earlier. Is even alt azimuth,
yeah,
from a smartphone and astrophotography, that is, I think that combined with digital photography and all that has really propelled. It's made training wheels, if you will, wheels for astrophotography, because before you had no choice. You had to go straight to equatorial, and then it's just a massive amount of things you have to think about.
Right.
Whereas
a lot of people out of the game, and what you proved, Cameron, is that you can do very decent quality imaging and accomplish a lot of self-education about the sky and everything, and have a record of what you saw, a reasonable record that, many of your shots, again, I'm stunned at the quality of them, Cameron. So, and once you started doing, a basic flat field calibration frame, wow, all of a sudden all your images really popped a lot more and stuff. So, but you took these incremental steps while you were going through your flow of doing your sky survey, and you've observed and imaged how many objects now?
Well, I've observed over 3,000 objects, but I've imaged. I guess you could say out of those, I've imaged probably around 300 now.
Yeah, 300 astrophotographs, 3,000 visual observations. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That for a lot of amateur astronomers, it's more than a lifetime of observing.
Oh yeah.
Actually, thanks.
Easy.
And but you know what? This is why smaller aperture is fine. I mean, we're getting down to 17th, 18th magnitude with imaging now, with a small aperture telescope. So there. What made me get onto this train, Scott and Kent, is about the sky survey, like you say, and kind of going for smaller aperture, is the combination of the workflow that comes along with digital, with GoTo, the the astro imaging technology in itself, and the Sky Safari, the database programs that allow you to record these images, and realizing that, I still have Sky Atlas 2000, but I used to have Uranometria 2000, which of course
That's a great
is a
soundtrack.
beautiful atlas from Tyrian. But what I realize is, to your point, I mean, you start to look, these galaxy clusters and that, it's like more than a lifetime. There's infinite amount of stuff. So I changed my tune and said, you know what, I'm going to try to do broad brush and see the whole sky worth of stuff in a not as deep initially, but guess what? That's part of the fun. You have sideshows. Like all of a sudden you take an image of a brighter object, and now you can start to see those fainter, and you also have a frame of reference. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You're still going deep, but you're also getting that satisfaction of accomplishment and saying, hey, you're painting the sky. You're actually getting a full view of the sky, instead of just focusing on certain spots here and there. So it really gets you more connected. And yeah, that's why, boy, and this is just the Northern Hemisphere. Whenever I see Maxi and all that.
Prediction, Cameron, you've observed the sky so much now. I'm going to make a prediction that you're going to make a discovery. It's going to be a comet. It's going to be a supernova, maybe an asteroid.
Thanks.
You're going to make a discovery. Okay.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you never know. It's but thank you for that vote of confidence. But we'll see what happens. But I am just enjoying the whole process. It's really fun.
Right.
But yeah. So really, again, you can see it's all coming together. We're getting a good process together, a good enjoyment system, and we're having a large. We're covering a lot of things. So we're now, just to kind of wrap up my session for today. Let me just continue here. So we're in Cygnus. Let me go, and let me go back a couple hours here. So okay, yeah, let's go back more. There we go. See, the problem with Altazimuth is when you go to Zenith, you can't really navigate very well. But anyway, so we have just ended up today with the Fireworks Galaxy. And now we're going to start to go there. 7008 is a beautiful planetary nebula, another bright one. And we'll continue to go. We're going to do through North American Nebula, Cocoon Nebula, and the Veil Nebula. I'll see if I can get all that maybe in next week, or if we split that up, I'll take a look at that. But yeah, we're still in Cygnus, at least for the next week. And then from there, we're probably going to go into Cepheus up here, the elephant trunk and such, or we'll start to dive back down and go down to Capricornus and Aquarius. But more to come. So thanks a lot for joining the journey, and yeah, clear skies, and
all right,
keep looking up.
Great. Thanks, Cameron. Thank you, Kent.
Thank you.
Here. And thanks to the audience for tuning in. And we will see you tomorrow with On the Wing with Dan George. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.